Number 2, Linda, is a record of attendance. Number 3, going by the agenda, is a declaration of conflicts of interest. I assume none. Number 4 is I'm going to call for the approval of the agenda. And we have two items. That one is a presentation, and the second one is the bee industry. So I'll ask for approval of the agenda, please. Moved by Madeline, seconded by Sandy. Any question? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, motion carried. Arthur, under business A, you have a 3-hour presentation, I think, is it? Oh, a brief presentation. Arthur?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a public hearing to receive public input into our climate change action plan, and I have a brief condensed version of the PowerPoint presentation that we presented at a public workshop as well as at a public participation meeting. So this is the public hearing stage, and I'd like to just begin with a brief introduction through this PowerPoint presentation. So if members of council wish to move, they can do so. As a requirement for the 2010-2015 gas tax agreement, municipalities are required to prepare and submit to Service Nova Scotia and Municipal Relations a climate change action plan. The plan will focus on climate change adaptation and will describe how the town plans to respond to impacts associated with climate change.
Good on you.
I outlined on this slide estimated storm damage of some storm events that hit the province of Nova Scotia. In Southwest Nova in November of 2010, the estimated storm cost was $5.6 million. So the point of this slide is that it is far less expensive to anticipate, plan, and prepare than it is simply to react after each climate change event. The Climate Change Action Plan dealt with 2 main issues. One, storm surge and sea level rise, and the second one being intense rainfall events. Now, under storm surge and sea level rise, the average historical increase of 4.1 centimeters per decade has implications for waterfront businesses and infrastructure. The study used Yarmouth's bench storm event, the Groundhog Day storm in 1976, which had a storm surge and a sea level rise impact of 4.81 meters. Under the studies that were done through Dalhousie, the worst case scenario, a 100-year storm event, that could result in a storm surge and sea level rise of 1.13 meters. Certainly, we all know that Water Street has experienced flooding usually more than once a year. The study also predicts that relative sea level rise by the year 2100 will be anywhere between 1 meter and 1.73 meters. Under intense rainfall events, affect storm sewers, roadways, basements, the Milton Dam and lake systems, Yarmouth Harbour, Broadbrook, as we all are aware of, and it also can impact our wastewater treatment facility. Intense rainfall events increases surface contaminations in our harbors, lakes, and streams. Again, Broadbrook experiences flooding usually more than once a year. And as we know, the November 2010 storm washed out several bridges, including the Tuscan River Bridge. It's important to note when people look at the tidal charts in the tidal harbor that those are in chart datum, where our land is actually done through GPS elevation and LiDAR contours, which is a CGVD 28 type of measurement. And to convert from tidal gauge measurements of CD to CGVD 28, you have to minus 2.31 meters. And that's different in different areas throughout the province. So for the town of Yarmouth, that's the ratio that you have to use to change tidal measurements to land measurements. Again, as outlined earlier, the Yarmouth Bench Storm event, Groundhog Day storm of 76, had a storm surge and sea level rise impact of 4.81 meters. I included this slide because we're going to talk about the Dalhousie studies that did a 1 in 25-year storm scenario as well as a 1 in 100-year storm scenarios, and what does that actually mean? So this chart provides a background. It's a part of the appendix of the plan that shows in a 1 in 100-year storm, that means it has a 1% chance of occurring in any given year and a 50% chance of happening in any lifetime based on a 70-year lifetime span. So I think that's worthwhile to include as a portion of the plan to help people understand what those 1 in 100-year and 1 to 25-year storm events actually mean. So this is part of the study that was done by Dalhousie students based on a 1 to 25-year storm scenario. And the worst case scenario for that event was 4.41 meters. They also did a scenario for the town of Yarmouth based on a 1 to 100-year storm scenario, which based the worst case scenario on 6.03 meters. Now that was changed to 6.13 meters because another report came out which advised us later on after the Dalhousie report was done that the high watermark prediction was actually off by 0.1 meters. So if you throughout the report, it does outline in brackets that the worst case scenario would be 6.13 meters. Now I included a aerial photograph that was done with the proposed impacts of just over 4 meters, so we can see the devastation that it does in the Milton corner area of the waterfront and around Dometex properties as well. So what this means is when we implement policies into our municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw, it's intended that it's proposed that we create a climate change, storm surge, and sea level rise sensitive area map. This outlines all properties along Yarmouth Harbour that are below the 6-meter contour. So we're proposing to implement policies to safeguard developments for any developments below the 6-meter contour line from that line to the harbour. Sure.
You say within how many meters? At the waterfront?
This designated area includes all those properties from the 6-meter contour down to sea level.
To sea level.
To the harbor.
To the harbor. And that's the ocean side, right where the circles and that are, you're saying?
Well, the circles are just showing where there's extreme sensitive areas due to infrastructure that we currently have. But the actual map is any area that's outlined in this hatched black area.
That's right.
All along the coastline. So this is the area where those new policies in our NPS and LUD will apply to nowhere else.
Nowhere else. And when will we be implementing these, or when will you be bringing these forward to implement them?
They're part of the plan.
Part of the plan
for
here?
council's approval this evening.
This evening. You can tell that I never read it all. That's why
There's quite a bit of
yeah,
information
there is. And I'll ask one more question. Was this presented to us before as a council a couple of years ago as part of the climate change? I seem to recollect that I've had this presentation before the other council previous to this one, or similar.
We've been working on
I know we've been working on this for a number of years.
Two and a half years.
Yeah, so we would have had, maybe that's, I'm remembering probably part of the committee
The
as
committee
being
tried
past
to
chair of it, yeah.
update council throughout the
Yes,
process.
that's probably what I'm remembering. Okay, thank you very much. I just wasn't sure of whether we're going to inhibit people from building in close to that area, so it will be that then.
It will apply to those areas that are outlined in the black hatch.
Right on, thank you.
So to continue with Councillor McIsaac's point, the proposed regulations that are going to be incorporated into the land use bylaw are going to deal with non-water dependent buildings as well as water dependent buildings. Obviously, those water dependent buildings need to be close to the harbor, need to be close to the channel to operate and their business with regards to the marine industry.
It's all right, Arthur.
Why did they do that? Any way of stopping that? Just talk ahead. Do you want this document? The computer. I have it here. Thank you very much, though. I have a few extra slides printed off here. If any members of council wish to follow along with the slides, if you wish to pass them. I will pass them, yes.
Is he rebooting?
So as mentioned earlier, the study and the plan itself is using the Groundhog Day storm in 1976 as the benchmark storm. So it's proposing that non-water dependent buildings be built at a minimum building grade elevation of 4.8. And if you remember, that storm created a 4.81 meters. So we're matching what we already know can occur because it occurred in our lifespan back in 1976.
Can I ask you one more question?
Sure.
I know we have a limited time, but Arthur, has there been any thought in, instead of restricting buildings being built? Now, I remember seeing a program on CBC, and it might have been on The Nature of Things, or Dave Suzuki, one of his programs he had on. And I think in the Netherlands, or one of those places over there where they've had a lot of flooding, and you might be familiar with this, that they build homes and houses and duplexes, and they're building for climate change, and they can go up to 10, 15 feet. When the water rises, the buildings rise, and rise with the water and the tides and everything, and it's everything's still hooked up. There's nothing that they can go with the flow, pardon the pun, but has there been any thought in putting that into any planning or anything? Any thought given for that, or would we look at somebody with a plan with that or whatever, instead of restricting anybody and everybody, or how would we look at that?
Well,
Or am I too far in advance?
No, that's fine. Canadian law is a little bit different. Anything below the high water mark, municipalities do not have the right to regulate. For example, if someone wanted to put a houseboat into the harbor, those buildings in Denmark are actually out in the harbor, they're in the water, and we don't regulate those types. It's under federal jurisdiction. So as long as they go and get federal approval, then they would be able to build.
I guess what I'm saying, Arthur, is if there's land there now, we're looking at the long term, and people build the structures now, knowing that this would be a floodplain, and then, and it would last they could get another 25 or 30 years of that system built before the flood, climate change, steel comes and so forth. Would that still be permitted or no? And it would be
this. There is a policy as part of the plan that will enable new developments as well as additions to existing developments to implement a design that's done by a qualified engineer that has considered climate change impacts. And if they sign off on that, then they can get a development permit from us. So that's an option for them as well. So I've outlined in the slide the minimum building grade elevations of 4.8 for non-water dependent buildings with a setback standard of 25 feet. Currently, under our land use bylaw, all setbacks along the industrial zones and the waterfront commercial industrial zone are waived. So this provides a certain level of protection from the storm events for those types of developments. Now, for water-dependent uses, we have relaxed those slightly to 4.6 meters. And obviously, their setback from the water is waived because they need to be close to the water to undertake their business. We also incorporated standards for accessory buildings and minimum wharf grade elevations as well. We implemented new requirements for hazardous materials such as oil, gas, and propane. And those minimum standards are the same whether it's water dependent or not, with the exception that water dependent uses, their setback from the water is waived as well because they have to be close to the boats that they serve. So in summary, the plan proposes to create a climate change, storm surge, and sea level rise sensitive area, which is the 6-meter contour and below. That main buildings, non-water dependent standards, the elevation standard of 4.8 meters, a minimum building setback of 25 feet. That new main buildings, non-water dependent, directly abutting Water Street, greater than 2,000 square feet in area, shall have a building grade equal to or greater than the directly abutting Water Street elevation. So that makes sure that at least the developments are built at a grade level matching the grade of the street. That helps with surface runoff coming off the street and around the property so it doesn't damage the actual building on the lot. Additions onto existing buildings and wharves may be built below the standards provided a qualified engineer identifies other suitable standards to ensure that the development will not be subject to flooding caused by climate change. Basement developments will be prohibited within that climate change sensitive area. New bulk petroleum storage facilities, service stations, and gas barrels will be prohibited in the climate change action storm surge and sea level rise sensitive area. And hazardous material standards will have to be at least 4.8 meters above mean sea level. So that's my presentation to council. I'd like to open up the floor to any questions from the public, as this is a public hearing to receive public comment. Thank you very much.
Arthur, thank you very much. Danny has asked a couple of questions or engaged in conversation. Is there anybody else either on council or in the audience that wishes to speak at this public hearing? Hi, go ahead. I should know you. Please identify yourself and you can come forward and sit beside Arthur if you want, or...
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the first time in my life to stand in front of an audience, public here, and officials on the other side. I'm tremendously impressed. When I realized all these discussions about the question climate change and the carbon dioxide problems, well, I asked the question, where does it come from, and is it normal what we are talking and discussing about? I'm from north of Germany. I lived the nature is coming back. Everything was totally destroyed, but underneath, new growth came up, and nowadays you see new green areas and with new development. But what has this to do with our situation here? We cannot build dike systems like in north of Germany and somewhere else. But nowadays, we have to realize that weather is not equal weather. And the expression of climate is meanwhile abused by some powerful figures on this globe to use their force for their good welfare. CO2 is not that problem, and without CO2 we cannot exist, because it's a basic of reproduction. It's a basic to green up anything. A tree needs CO2 to develop life again. Breathing out is CO2. So shall I have to pay for this, like the politicians demand to pay for CO2 exhausting, like the cows? Well, those guys who are demanding more payments from us taxpayers and industry production, whatever, they are running greenhouses with huge CO2 machines, just for the reason to have more production, more productivity, more profit, more output. How does this fit together? Then, the overpopulation of beef is a huge problem for CO2 production too. And the latest information about the decrease of forests, we have now, within 2000 and 2012, 2.5 million square kilometers loss of forest on this earth. This is the latest news from tonight, and I was really tremendously shocked. So just when I go from here around us, around in our community, and see the big trucks and picking out the logs, and nothing is being reforested again, it's just let the rest leftovers down, and nothing happened with these clear cuts. This has an impact to our climate in our small community.
Could I, we have a long agenda, could I ask you to, I give you 1 or 2 more minutes, and then if you have a report that you can leave with Arthur, that would be great, and have further discussion with Arthur sometime. So, but welcome and thank you very much. But if you want to finish off by saying,
I just would like to say one sentence out loud. We are not dependent on only the natural activities on Earth. We know nowadays that it is possible by using energy to create storm systems wherever they are needed. And we know for sure now that Sandy Hook, this storm we had last year, was not a natural storm. We have chemtrails, we have power enough to produce activities in the atmosphere. The Chinese are doing that, and our neighbors are doing that as well. They made it already in the Vietnam War. They made it already in other places where they need it. And now it is so interesting just to see one and one together. We have this conference in Warsaw, but suddenly we have the Philippine disaster. And the question is, was this really a natural disaster? But we have to go back to the reason. Climate change, yes, but where does it come from, and what can we do to protect us? Yarmouth is such a beautiful old town, and had ever to live with floods, more or less. But we have to think about that when we make our protection.
thank you very much. And please introduce yourself to Arthur so you can give your name and number. Arthur?
You know,
I've been corresponding with them.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else wish to comment on this part of the public hearing? If not, we'll move on.
I've only got a 25-minute presentation.
Wasn't loud enough, Ken. Sorry about that.
Well, the light was flashing. You know?
Yeah, but it wasn't looking.
I just wanted to say, Mr. Chair, I want to say a special thank you to Arthur and his team for this work at UNSM, where many of us were last week. It was interesting to hear comments from other units on how far ahead we are in this whole picture, and I think a lot of it goes to Arthur and his climate change committee and that whole group and how well they've served our town, and this is an absolutely incredible effort, and I just wanted to make a point of commending Arthur and making us a leader in another area, which is incredible. So thank you, Arthur, and thank you to the team.
Thank you, Ken. I'll be aware of the flashing lights on my left. Any other comments on this part of the evening? If not, we'll move into the second item. Arthur, it's an application to consider and, if deemed advisable, amend the MPS and the LUB to enable urban beekeeping throughout the town as outlined in the planner's report. Is there, Arthur, do you want to begin? If anybody in the audience that wants to speak to that, or fellow councillors? Stand up, say hello, say.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Adam Graham. I'm a resident of Yarmouth and have been for about 9 years. I just wanted to come to voice my support for having urban beekeeping in Yarmouth. Some of you heard me at the Planning Advisory Committee meeting too, but I just think that it's a way that council can move forward in making the town a bit more livable. Over the time that I've been here, it's been great to see the changes that have been made. And making this town sort of more attractive to people coming. And I did want to speak to, I didn't see sort of or hear Arthur's objections from the beginning, but I did see in the paper it sort of referenced risks or perceived risks as reasons to maybe not go ahead with this. But I did some looking and I tried to find any possible actual risk. And I couldn't really come up with anything. I could see that the numbers that I found for like anaphylaxis is that the #1 cause is actually penicillin. 3 times more people die in the States from accidentally overdosing on Tylenol than bee stings, and that's where they actually have the aggressive bees, which is unrelated. Sorry. So I just couldn't find any. I just feel that the actual risk is negligible. I was a little bit baffled by the phrase perceived risk. I don't see how that really would weigh into decisions at all. And the other thing was about allowing beekeeping, opening the doors for chickens. It was actually my wife who had brought the amendment earlier, a couple of years ago, for chickens. And we're just baffled about why that would even come up, because they're so different issues. There are different things to deal with. Just like I wouldn't think that chickens would mean that you have to automatically approve sheep or cows or anything like that. So I just couldn't come up with any real objections that I could find. And I think it is an important sort of step forward for the town to take. So just wanted to voice my support there.
So thank you very much. It's good to have the participation at this level. Anybody else wish to speak? If not, I'll ask for a motion to end the meeting. Thank you. Also, thank you very much. We're all set.
No, we're good. Yeah, good. Okay, we're good. We'll call this meeting to order. Stand for the singing of O Canada. Yes. Okay. I always ask that. Regular attendance, Linda, you good? Declarations of conflicts of interest. Approval of agenda, additions or deletions. Yes, Mark. Deputy Mayor?
Your Worship, we have a long agenda, and I'd like to suggest that I want to go through all the agenda. It may take more than one meeting. I'd like to suggest that if we're not finished through item number 9, which has a lot of items in it, say by 9:15, that we agree that we can move on to number 10 and the reports. Following that, we have, with reports, we have an in-camera moment, which always takes more than a moment. So I'm suggesting that by 9:15, if we're only partway through number 9, that we agree that we would deal with all of the items on the agenda at the second meeting of the month.
Thank you. Councillor Landrill.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think Deputy Mayor's great suggestion. In fact, I'd like to go one step further. Unfortunately, Councillor Mooney is not with us this evening for a bit because he is at the funeral home with the passing of his wife's father. But he will be here after 8:15. Considering that there is considerable interest in the Zion Baptist Church, the Heritage Advisory Committee, I would like to maybe suggest to Council that instead of people waiting for a while after Councillor Mooney comes in, if we could move to that item, because rather than people having to wait forever, I know Councillor Mooney does sit on the Heritage Advisory Committee, and out of respect for him, I know he would like to be present for that vote. But maybe, Your Worship, with your permission and the permission of Council, if we could move that item up at that point so that that could be dealt with earlier in the evening, and then the audience would be able to leave, because I think most of the people in the audience this evening have interest in the Heritage Advisory Committee recommendation on Zion Baptist Church, and I think that's a matter we should resolve in a timely fashion.
Thank you. Councillor Dawes.
Thank you, Your Worship. I feel badly in adding on to this list, but only two small ones, two short ones. One is sitting on the pension committee here. I request to attend the upcoming pension workshop in Halifax, and the second is Typhoon Haiyan in the Philippines. Thank you.
Oh, yes. Sorry. 12A, pension workshop. And 12B, typhoon. Okay, so here's what we've got a number of requests. So first of all, to stop or slow down around about 9:15 so that we can do the reports and take care of the in-camera so that doesn't go too late. And as soon as Councillor Mooney comes, you can remind me to do that because he should be here. That's He should be here for the in-camera, but he's on the Heritage as well, so we don't want him to miss either one. Okay, so we all right with that, everyone? Okay. Thank you. So can I have a motion to approve the agenda with the changes? Get out of my head. Moved and seconded by Councillor Dawes. Any further discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Approval of minutes. Okay, we have public hearing October the 10th, 2013. Motion to approve these minutes. Moved by Deputy Mayor. Second by Councillor Dennis. Discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Carried. Town Council, October the 10th, 2013. Motion to approve the minutes. Moved by Councillor Dawes. Can I have a seconder? Second by Deputy Mayor. Discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. That's two of us. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Don't make me come out there. Committee of the Whole, October 24th, 2013. Okay, second? Second by Councillor Dennis. Discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. And did I do the 29th? Not yet. Committee of the Whole, October 29th, 2013. Moved by Councillor Dawes. Second by Deputy Mayor. Discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Just, that's only one person. Get with the program, people. Contrary? Motion carried. Town Council, October 29th, 2013. Moved by Councillor Langell, second by Councillor Dennis. Discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. That's much better. Thank you, class. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Presentation, Communities in Bloom. Councillor Langell, we're going to let you take this, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Very proud to inform Council again. We did this prior, but more or less making it formal tonight. As you are aware, we have a very active Communities in Bloom committee, and we have a number of motions coming up later this evening or tomorrow, whenever we get to them. At our recent award ceremony in Ottawa at the National Communities in Bloom, the town of Yarmouth excelled again, and that's in efforts not only to our committee but to the entire town who pulled together last year, and as always making Yarmouth a truly beautiful place. We were successful in attaining 5 blooms, which is the highest you can achieve in the country for a community of our size, for excellence, for our presence, for our gardens, for the whole operation of the town, and we competed with towns of equal size to us across Canada. We also were successful, Your Worship, in winning the National Environmental Action Award, which we're very proud of. We've been trying to attain this one now for at least 3 years, I believe. Councillor Dennis, who sits with me on the committee with Councillor Mooney, and thanks to the efforts of Amy Hilliard, who's with Waste Check, and Dave Warner, who's on our committee as well, with the presentation of the report, we were very, very fortunate to receive both of these awards. So we're very pleased that we do it, and I'd like to, at this point, Your Worship, present these to you as the Mayor of the town, and I'm kind of hoping these will somehow get up in here somewhere with the others that we've won. I will remind Council, this is the 3rd national award that we've won in the last 3 years, and for a small town of our size to attain that number of awards is a precedent. It's really an incredible achievement, and that's thanks to the entire community, not just a small group of people, but the entire community work behind this one. So, Your Worship, I'd like to have great pleasure to present these to you, and we have some other things to present as well.
Let's go up there.
Your Worship, we have some of our committee members here, and we thought it would be suitable to recognize the key players. Some of them that are with us this evening. We have some new appointees, unfortunately, who are not involved with this, but I was wondering if you could present these awards as well.
Councillor Sandy Dennis. I gotta read this. For hard work, all of these say this, for hard work, support, and dedication to the town of Yarmouth through the Communities in Bloom Committee. Your efforts have resulted in our town achieving 5 blooms, the highest standard set by National Communities in Bloom, as well as attaining 2 national awards in the past 3 years. Our congratulations and appreciation. Thank you. Well, look at that. It says the same thing. Oh, yes.
Just for knowledge, we wore these to the conference and they say Town of Yarmouth, Communities in Bloom. So we tried to represent ourselves very well.
And you did. Yes, actually, I can. This is for Saritha McIsaac, Danny's wife. Would you like to come take this for your wife? And extend our heartfelt thanks to you. Okay, Vivian Kennedy, Yarmouth Garden Club. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Mood. A number of our other committee members, and I'd like to acknowledge our committee members who were not here tonight because of work commitments, and of course a lot of these people are very busy. Carol McKinley, David Solos, who's been a major player in this occasion, and I realize there was a tragedy in his family, and our condolences to David and the family. Rodney Doucette, a key player. He's with our Public Works Department. Councillor Phil Mooney, who will be joining us later. Barbara Rodney, who with the Milton Improvement Society. Amy Hilliard, who I mentioned a few minutes ago with Waste Check. Chuck Smith, a new member of our committee, who does an amazing job with the community gardens. And Martha Cassidy, who's a new member. And later on, Your Worship will be acknowledging 2 new members as well to our committee. So thank you, Your Worship, for doing that.
Let's not forget the chair. Let's have a hand for the chair. Doesn't come together. There's nothing like putting us on the national stage. Oh, yeah. And it's a great thing. It's a great thing. Thank you. Okay, now, business arising, the notice of motion from Councillor Mooney. Are we okay to go ahead with this even though he's not here? Okay. Would you do that? Thank you.
Yes, Your Worship. On behalf of Councillor Mooney, I'm giving notice that correspondence be sent to the province of Nova Scotia requesting that they resurface Main Street with monies coming from provincial revenue and the difference in gas taxes between Yarmouth and the rest of the province. That is the motion, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. Moved by Councillor Dennis. Or do we? Second by Councillor McIsaac. Any discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Yeah, aye. It's like pulling teeth tonight. I'm going to have to play dentist. Go ahead, Councillor McIsaac.
Just to let people know what his intent is that gas prices fluctuate from Yarmouth to Barrington, you know, and right till you get to Halifax, Cape and wherever. So we're asking for the difference. If we pay 3 cents more because we live in Yarmouth, we're asking that 3 cents go towards the help to pave the streets of Yarmouth. And that was Councillor Mooney's intent, that the province be served notice that it doesn't go on notice that we pay a higher price for tax when everybody else doesn't pay the same. I mean, if you truck it to, we'll say to Barrington, and you've only got you got 50 kilometers to come to Yarmouth, you know, there's not that much difference. So anyway, that was his intent, and let's hope that we get some positive response to it, so we'll just keep our fingers crossed, and we'll keep the public posted, see what happens. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor. Notice of Motion Re-Technology Advisory Committee, Councillor Langeau.
Thank you, Your Worship. I gave notice at the last meeting. I'd like to move that the Town of Yarmouth reestablish the Technology Advisory Committee with a mandate to advise Yarmouth Town Council on all future matters of technology that affect the residents of the Town of Yarmouth. That is my motion.
Moved by Councillor Langeau, second by Councillor McIsaac. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to speak on this motion, we did have a very active technology advisory committee in the previous council. It was involved with a lot of things, mainly in an advisory capacity. Given the high state of need with social media, wireless connections, internet, and even things such as wind turbines and et cetera, maybe it would be nice to see that committee come back again. A number of people who are involved in the town of Yarmouth have expressed some interest in that, and it might be a nice idea. Maybe not it meeting as regular as the last committee, it was kind of sporadic, but even 2 or 3 times a year, just to bring together people who have like minds to maybe give some suggestions and look at some ideas. I think it was a valuable committee. It kind of, towards the end, kind of waned a bit, but it actually, given the right direction, I think could be a very good committee with the right people. The committee structure is all set up for it. The mandate is all there. We just didn't continue the appointments of that committee, so it never was struck off the books, and the CAO can correct me on that. I believe it's still there. We never disbanded it. We just did not do the appointments in this round. So I'm just suggesting that we may want to activate that committee.
Go ahead, CAO, and then Councillor McIsaac.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd have to check to see if we had amended the policy or if we had just simply not appointed. Either way, if it's the intention to put it back the way it was, then that's easy enough. We have a citizen appointment process policy, and I guess the question I have is, if the motion passes, it's the intention to follow the policy in terms of applications to the committee and go through the normal process. Great.
Good. Councillor McIsaac.
Thank you, Your Worship. Your Worship, that committee was struck by Councillor McKenzie when he was on council, and he's taking us and that committee where we are today with Web Live, the cameras you see in here, the Wi-Fi up and down Main Street at that time, and it was a big improvement to what we had and what we have now. So I'd just like to send out a thanks to Councillor McKenzie, and he's not forgotten for this, and he brought it to where it is right to this till today, and hopefully that we'll look favorably on passing this and bring it back and even make it even more stronger and more better than what we have right now. So I just wanted to send out a thanks to former Councillor McKenzie. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Questions been called? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Citizen Advisory Committee's policy revised. Councillor Langeau.
Thank you, Your Worship. That was come from previous meeting as well, where a request was made that we increase, it was Councillor Mooney suggested we increase the number of committee members on the Heritage Advisory Committee from 2 council members to 3. Given the direction that Heritage has been going in the town, it may be better to have a stronger representation there. So it was an amending, so it would be amending section 5.3 of the section under provisions regarding the Heritage Advisory Committee, which is under policy number 8 of the Citizens Advisory Committee's policy. And so my motion is to amend the Citizens Advisory Committee's policy number 8, section 5, scroll down, 5.3, which would now read, Heritage Advisory Committee shall comprise of 3 to 5 citizens and 3 council members appointed by council. That would be the motion, Your Worship, if that's in order.
It's in order. Moved by Councillor Langeau, second by Councillor McIsaac. Discussion. Deputy Mayor.
Your Worship, I want it to remain the same as it is now. I understand what the reason for the motion and the change. We've done so well with our existing committee, and I think all of us councillors are busy enough with their daily activities, which include activity associated with the town of Yarmouth. You know, we're well represented, and I, you know, think that we're fine with the existing two. If one of the existing two wish not to participate, then of course one of us other councillors will offer to be part of that committee. But at this point, with respect to the mover and seconder of the motion, I'm going to vote against the change.
Thank you. Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Nay. Motion defeated. Business, tender, demolition, deconstruction, 1 Willow Street. That's you, CAO. Go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. What you have in your package tonight is the tender results for 1 Willow Street. Now, you'll recall that 1 Willow Street was a property on which an order was issued under the dangerous and unsightly bylaw, and the administrator issued the order. We held an appeal hearing here in the chambers. We received communication from the owner. Nothing indicating that he was going to make any changes, and to our knowledge, no effort has been made whatsoever to do anything to correct the deficiencies in the property. And so the solicitor advised the last time this was on our agenda, I believe it was the hearing, that this would be your last crack at not demolishing 1 Willow Street. You could reject the tender and it would not be demolished, or you could accept the tender and we will award it and proceed to demolition. And so for information, for anybody who's not looking at the document, the invited tenders were requested from 5 local contractors for the demolition of 1 Willow Street. 3 responses were received from contractors, and the results, the low bid was Rose Valley Trucking and Excavating for $11,000 plus HST, and it is recommended that the tender be awarded to Rose Valley.
Councillor McIsaac.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Jeff. And my question would be to the CAO. And I know I asked the question at the last meeting, so I'll ask it again at this meeting. Where do we stand legally on doing what we're doing? Pardon? No, for the solicitor.
Go ahead.
Did I say the CAO? I meant the solicitor. Sorry about that.
You got it.
He was pointing.
Oh.
You were looking at me, I saw it. You know, council already passed the motion to proceed with the demolition. There's the opportunity, I guess, if you want to change your mind, to pass a motion not to proceed. But if you, as the CAO indicated, if you pass the motion accepting the lowest tender, then that would proceed, and the demolition would take place. So if you're asking me, has all the steps as required under the Municipal Government Act to proceed with the demolition been carried out? Yes, they have.
That was my concern. Thank you very much, and thank you, CAO.
Good. Any further discussion? Oh, yes, yeah, I was excited for a second there. Okay, so we need a motion to approve. Okay. A motion to approve Rose Valley Trucking and Excavating for the demolition and deconstruction of 1 Willow Street. Moved by Councillor McIsaac, second by Councillor Dawes. Further discussion? Councillor Langell?
Just a quick question to the CAO. I do know there's been some email correspondence, and I know there are some individuals in town very upset that we even go near a heritage building or an old building or any building that may possibly have any remote heritage connection. And my question is, this has been on the books for some time, have we had any expressions of interest of any kind on that building or any concerns other than some of the usual ones we get? Is there anything new on that building that we should be aware of? I know it's not a significant building. It's not registered as a municipally registered heritage building. It's an old house is what it is, in very hard shape, but my question to you is, have we had anything, reason why we should not go to demolition?
Excuse me, CAO.
No, I've not received anything that you have not received in terms of any citizen concern about that building. I can tell you, though, that we did investigate with the solicitor if there were features of the building that could be salvaged in the demolition, if in fact it were to proceed. If there were features that could be salvaged of value and then sold to mitigate the costs, would it be appropriate to do so? He confirmed it was. We did enter the property for the purpose of determining if there was anything of value that could be sold and applied against the bill. There was nothing identified that was of value for resale. So no concerns from citizens, and we've done our best, I guess, to determine if there was anything of value to salvage.
Thank you. Okay, so the motion's on the floor. Any more discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. RFP Integrated Municipal Financial Software, CAO. Go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. Several months ago, Council gave the go-ahead to proceed to seek proposals for a integrated municipal financial software package for the town. The town of Yarmouth, in conjunction with the districts of Digby, Barrington, and Shelburne, issued a joint request for proposals for such a software system. 4 responses were received, and the results are summarized in the memo. Pricing identified is exclusive of HST, and it is recommended that the RFP be awarded to Procom Municipal Software in the amount of $111,908 plus HST. That is for your information and approval, and for the information of anyone who doesn't have the benefit of this document in front of them. The next lowest bid was $69,000 above that price, and did not include a planning module, which the Procom software does include.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. You can answer that. Your light's still on.
Procom Data Town Suite, believe the world headquarters is in Gander, Newfoundland. And approximately 20 municipalities in Nova Scotia use their software.
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Landro?
I'm so pleased to see this finally, because the amount of, we are so backward when it comes to our software. I'm amazed that we still have staff that have hair in their heads, considering the amount of how old our systems are. My question is to the CAO, is this going to meet the needs, obviously the needs of the present, but I know, is this the type of software that modules can be added? Where do we stand down the road with it? So where are we going to be 5-10 years from now with this? I want to make sure that, I mean, this is your kick at the can. We've discussed this at finance. You know there was a few dollars more that we could have played with here. I just want to make sure you are getting, and your staff is getting, exactly what we're going to need, not only now, but maybe down the road.
CAO?
Thank you, Your Worship. The Director of Finance worked for months with the CAOs and Directors of Finance of the other municipalities that I mentioned. They did several demonstrations of the software. They talked to many of the 20 municipalities in Nova Scotia that are using it. To be quite honest, there were earlier versions of the Procom software, let's say version 2, that was somewhat buggy, and for that reason, we probably had a bit of a bias against it. But they have released another version within the last year, an upgrade, and it is much better. Their customers are satisfied, and so from that point of view, our Director of Finance would not have changed his mind had he not been totally convinced, and he had to be brought from not a neutral position, but a bias against it to a position of recommending it. The Diamond Municipal Software, the next lowest price at $180,000, none of their customers are dissatisfied. They put out a very good product, but in fact, it is a lot more expensive than the Procom software. And from his point of view, and I share his point of view, the benefits weren't equal to the costs. And so the system we have right now, the Richter system, we have been running in the town of Yarmouth for approximately 20 years. So these systems don't go obsolete as quickly as, say, Microsoft Windows or anything like that. So we will be running this software for many years. There is a maintenance contract, as there is with all of them, to pay for ongoing support and service. And as I mentioned, Procom has done an upgrade in the last year. They have a number of active customers, and I expect they'll be around for the long haul to support their product. So I have no reservations.
Thank you. So we are looking for, we're looking to answer Deputy Mayor's light. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McIsaac said I can't see ever, but I'm getting better. Go ahead, Deputy.
Jeff, I see we're in conjunction, Town of Yarmouth, in conjunction with Digby and Barrington and Shelburne. If we were to associate ourselves more closely with our sister municipal unit, is this going to be easier to do than perhaps currently?
Go ahead, CAO.
All of the municipal units in southwestern Nova Scotia, with the exception of us four who've just done this RFP process, are using Procom software, except the District of Yarmouth.
Good, Councillor Landry.
I'm very comfortable with this, Your Worship. I'd like to make a motion that the Town of Yarmouth accept the proposal from Procom Municipal Software to the amount of $111,908 plus HST for the acquisition of integrated municipal financial software system.
Thank you. So moved. Second by Councillor Dawes. Any further discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Congratulations, Financial Officer. Yes, that's great. 100th anniversary celebration of registered nursing education. Yesterday, I was at the hospital and they were having their 100th anniversary of Dalhousie School of Nursing. And with 100 years, I just thought it appropriate that we do up a certificate that basically says thank you for all they've done in the community. So I will I can't make the motion, but I'll entertain a motion that a certificate be sent to the Dalhousie School of Nursing in celebration of 100 years of registered nursing education, Southwest Health. Moved by Deputy Mayor. Second by Councillor Dawes. Go ahead, Councillor Dawes. You're good? Okay. Any discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Carried. Strategic Action Plan. I'll entertain this motion too. That staff be directed to set an initial meeting date for council to review priorities and develop a strategic action plan to be completed before budget discussions so that council can effectively allocate funds to projects that will help fulfill the strategic action plan.
Whoa, so moved.
Okay. Not second by Deputy by. I'm looking right at you. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I just put this out here, and there's a number of items on the agenda that will probably fall into this package, but we've brought it up before, and each time there's been something that's kind of caught us, whether it's going out to look for consultants to look after it, or whatever it is. But I think it's high time we sit down after a year and hash through, and then when we're doing our budget negotiations, at least we're guided by what we've said we want to do, basically. Councillor Langell.
And this is an internal thing that we're going to be doing as council. I'm assuming that mountain of paper sitting in there has something to do with this. I'm assuming that there's a lot of trees that are laying in. Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I figured, yeah.
Yeah.
Christmas reading, thank you.
Oh. Councillor McIsaac.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. You were at the same meeting I was at, the UNSM, when I asked the question about the reports, and strategic planning reports that we have. We have plenty of them, and the lady said that when I asked the question, and she said, you know, it would be good to go through what you have and look through those. So it's great that you take the initiative and going this route instead of going the other route where we pay lots of money and sometimes it just sits on the shelf like we have 5 or 6 other reports. So I'm glad that you're geared up for this, and we'll see where it takes us. Thank you.
It's going to take us through Christmas for reading. It's all good. Any further discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Carried. Christmas tree, Yarmouth South. I'll entertain this motion too, that council reinitiate the tradition of placing and lighting a Christmas tree at the Yarmouth South Playground. Moved by Councillor Dawes, second by Councillor Dennis. And I'll just say this, I don't know who in this room or at this table, Councillor McIsaac, you'll remember this, but we used to line up in front of that South Playground, and we were just like sardines. And Santa used to give us a bag with a candy cane and an orange and all kinds of candy, and it was the firefighters that I think the firefighters put it on. Remember that? And the Christmas tree was always lit in the playground there. And so now we go by and we got that big bare hill, and what a way to kind of just bring us all together. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. Councillor Lanjo.
And St. George's still does the children affair. It's really quite nice. I love the motion. I think it's great. The only thing I'd like to see, and again, this is probably through the CIA, I wouldn't want to clutter up the motion, but I really think more Christmassy in Yarmouth South would be in order. I think the tree is long overdue, but we've got an additional wreath kicking around or some lights, etc. Milton is usually done quite nicely by the merchants in the community, but Yarmouth South could use a little gussying up. I commend your worship for the motion, long overdue, but I wouldn't mind to see us go a little bit further and see if we can't, you know, brighten up, especially the corner of Argyle and Main, because that's a major gathering point for Yarmouth South, and I'd love to see us do something in that area. So I'm just throwing that as a side.
Good, thank you. Councillor Dawes.
Thank you, Your Worship. That would be much appreciated by the residents and also the retailers of that corner in Yarmouth South. They have already adopted that corner for themselves, as well as their plans for Christmas decorations are already on the table, but they would much appreciate any assistance that could be given. Good. So on their behalf, which I shouldn't do, I'll say thank you very much.
Good. Okay, any further discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Do you want to do a separate motion for the extra decorations? Just do, we should be, just do it just so it'll be on the books and then we won't.
Okay, I'll do this nice and slow for Linda here, okay? I'd like to move, Your Worship, that staff be directed to look into and affix needed extra decorations in the area of Yarmouth South, primarily in the wreaths, etc., in around the Argyle Water Street area, Argyle and Main area, especially in around the children's playground.
Good. Linda, you good? Okay.
With consultation with the retailers and residents of the Argyle Main intersection. Some of their decorations are already
Yeah.
organized, planned.
Did we do that?
If you can do it in consultation with them, that'd be fine.
Yeah, just the question is, so we don't, I think it's a great idea, Councillor. My only concern is to do it in a timely fashion for staff, because this is going to be a staff thing. Would that be something you could coordinate maybe and assist the staff with? Where it's your suggestion, I think that would be because I'd hate to see it get bogged down with the consultation process.
Good.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Yasta Guide. I'll entertain this one. That council take out an ad in the front or back cover of the Yasta Guide for 2014 at a cost of approximately $1,600. Now, I had to put it out there because usually some ads come across, and this one was I'll just, the price tag was such that I said I better ask. Given that it's the fairy year, all those things, I just want to put it out there to consider it. We did it last year. I think we had the back inside cover, and it was the downtown thing through, what's that? And the events were listed and things like that. Councillor McIsaac?
What are you saying, is the ad for Christmas or something? Is that what it is?
No, the Yasta guide, the thick guide that they,
But we, yeah, for the book. But didn't we already just pass some financing for a page in the Yasta guide? I think it was, we gave them extra funding, and we also bought a page in Yasta.
oh, that was for doers and dreamers.
Okay, but that's...
Okay, so on
yeah.
behalf of Yasta, we gave money
Okay.
for that. This is basically the printers of this booklet. We're not giving money to Yasta. The printers of the booklet, just like if we advertised in the Vanguard, if we said whatever we're going to say, it would be the same thing.
So
So
they
advertisement in
okay.
this.
So they don't print anything about Yarmouth with the monies that we give them to advertise for Yarmouth. They don't put anything in the paper about Yarmouth. They want us to fund them plus buy a page.
It's the whole Yasta guide. It's just on the back cover. We advertised some
So we don't
additional-
get that with the $80,000 or $90,000 we give them already.
But this isn't for Yasta. This
It's-
isn't, we're not paying Yasta.
But who are we
We're just
paying?
buying an ad in this, in this.
So Yas just wants us to put an ad
Yasta
in this
definitely
paper for Yarmouth. Is that what they want?
Just that, we're going to try to clarify that, because I...
Yeah, because
I can help
I really don't understand.
Okay, Councillor Orlando can probably...
I think I might be able to help. The YASDA guide is put out every year by the Yarmouth and Acadian Shores. It is a contract they have with Fundy Group or Transcontinental. Transcontinental has a contract with YASDA, and the CEO can correct me on this, I think. They have a contract for a certain amount to produce the ad. The YASDA has a budget which over and above for the design, et cetera, to put this together, and advertising helps lessen the cost. So you could almost say the advertising is kind of subsidized in some cases. It gives the merchant community a chance. If you look at the other guides that are put in destination, there's the South Shore Guide and the Annapolis Guide. They are a little pricier to go into because there isn't that infusion of municipal dollars that we have done over the years. So that's why you'll find that the YASDA Guide costs around $20,000 over and above the advertising cost, because that's the arrangement with Transcontinental, whereas the other two publications are more at a break-even basis and therefore a little pricier. This allows YASDA to reach out more to smaller businesses that can't afford a very pricey advertising, and that's what. And believe me, for the volume you're getting, $1,600 for the bang for the buck is a fair chunk. is pretty good. It's not an earth-shattering deal. I'm just wondering about the placement of this ad. Is it in the inside back, or are we getting the back cover?
Well, Linda, do you remember, we asked for the inside front cover, actually, because we paid the $1,600 for the inside back before, but this time we can get, if we're quick, if we haven't missed it, the inside front cover. So when they open it, that's what they see. Yeah.
My
Councillor-
question is that, do we have the funding for this? Would be to the CAO. Have we budgeted for this?
Go ahead.
The budget is tight. There's no question about that. I'm trying to recall where we took the money from last year. I don't know off the top of my head a specific line item, but for $1,600, if it's council's wish, I know we can find it. Okay. I'd have to look.
Okay, because yeah, okay, I just thought that we had, but it wasn't doers and dreamers. And I just thought it was part of their mandate that they automatically do this anyway. The picture of you and the other wardens and stuff are in here. I don't know what that cost. Did that cost anything?
People should be paying for that.
Well, it depends if they get any basements or not. But nevertheless,
No, I don't know if that cost anything. They just asked us to.
okay. So that's free, but they want us to pay $1,600. Okay, just a question. Thank you.
But do you understand? Did that help you? No, but it was hard for me to understand too, because I didn't quite understand who printed it. That's why I said I better put it on the agenda as opposed to just letting it slip. Okay, Councillor Dawes?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll keep it short. Do we have a choice? Are we asked to make a choice of either the inside back or the inside front cover? I don't know how to, I don't know how to interpret and read
We
this.
just asked, Linda, did we not ask if they had both of them available
Do we have
then?
a choice?
Yeah, that was a week ago.
Oh, well, whatever you decide.
Yeah.
$1,600 is a chunk of change. However, you have to spend money to make money. Well, you also have to spend to put your best foot forward, and we need to put both of our best feet forward, especially this year. So I would make the motion that we approve your request that council take out and add in the front or back cover of the YESTA guide for 2014 at a cost of approximately $1,600.
Okay, if I got a seconder?
Second.
Second by Councillor Dennis. Discussion? Although, yes?
The discussion.
Go ahead.
I just want to make sure that we ask for the inside of the front cover first.
Oh, yes.
And push for that.
That's appropriate, right?
And if the other, if there is competition for that, make sure the other fellow can't get it.
Okay, any more discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Capital priorities. That a meeting date be set within the next 30 days for council to discuss capital priorities. How did I think this was, go ahead. CAO?
Your Worship, we had discussed this in the context of the imminent announcement of a new Build Canada fund, where we'd be able to apply for specific projects. In order for staff to begin the process of putting together the pricing and so on for projects, we'd like to know exactly what your highest priorities are. And so if we could schedule a meeting within the next 30 days to discuss just that item, we'll bring together the laundry list. And I'm sure in fairly short order, you folks can whittle it down to a few key priorities that we'll try and attack this year and use as the basis for our application to the Build Canada Fund.
Okay. Good. So moved by Councillor McIsaac. Can I have a seconder? Oh, sorry. Second by Councillor Dawes. Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Committee appointments. That staff be directed to set up a meeting for council to review the mayor and councilors committee appointments. Councillor McIsaac.
Thank you, Your Worship. Could you explain what this is for, please?
Yep, basically at the beginning of last year, brand new people around the table, and we kind of doled out the committee appointments and things like that. And I thought, after a year, if we just come together, sit at a table, see is everybody okay where they are? And sometimes, I mean, I'm fine where I am, but sometimes there's not a fit, or you're interested in something else. So, I mean, it might take 10 minutes. Everybody might just say, I'm fine where I am, but just to make sure everybody's good.
Could we not do it?
Yep, go ahead.
Could we not do it at our committee of the whole? Would that be soon enough, our next committee of the whole?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, we can deal with
So
it.
can we refer this to the committee of the whole?
Yes,
Okay.
I would recommend we do, yeah. Thank you.
Moved and seconded.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor? Excuse me.
We were already going to meet to discuss capital priorities, and would it be too confusing to do it at that same time?
Within 30 days, yeah.
So I'm just trying to lessen the number of meetings, or I'm just not looking to say we should or shouldn't. I'm just asking the question and just getting comment and feedback around the table.
I think if we go to the committee of the whole, that's in 2 weeks. then it's taken care of, gives you time to think, are you okay, or do you want to move? And make sure that when we come to the table that, you know, if there's any changes you want to make or anything. So we're okay with that? Who made the motion? Councillor Langell, go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. And again, just for the record, I think too, if any of us around the table would like to move around on committees, or I mean, I'm more than flexible to move around. So if anybody sees something that I'm doing that they would like to hop in the saddle, especially Heritage Committee, they really can have that one. So anyway, but if anybody wants to make some changes in that, and I think it might be nice for councillors among each other to have dialogue, because we've all seen it, you know, rather than getting into a whatever. I mean, I'm happy where I am, but on the other hand, I'm more than willing to do some shifting around too. And I mean, we're in committees that we thought that we would be comfortable with, or we may be comfortable with, and I think you're quite right, after a year, maybe people are having a second thought or whatever, and that's something that we can work together as a team on.
Good. And keep in mind too, I mean, we can all go to any meetings. So if you're just, you know, looking to, okay, so we have a motion by Councillor Langell to refer this to the Committee of the Whole. Second by Councillor Dawes. Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Oh, it was made by Councillor McIsaac, sorry. I said, who moved it? Councillor Langell put up his hand. There he goes again. Okay. All right, Christmas promotion funding. Councillor Langell.
Thank you, Your Worship. I sent around a couple of days ago the preamble, so I don't have to argue about that. And I also sent the message around, the motion around, and I'm simply going to make a motion that the Town of Yarmouth allocate the sum of $16,250 to the annual Christmas Promotion Committee to pay for placemats, small advertising items aimed at promoting our town during this 2014 Christmas season. I should add to that motion, and I apologize, I just realized placemats is such a small chunk. People are going to say, boy, there's expensive placemats. It's for advertising, for buy local placemats, events, promotions, that sort of thing. And if I get a seconder, I'll explain what we're doing here. Your Worship, this is the third year now that we've become quite aggressive as a community in the buy local. The whole thrust, Your Worship, is to encourage people to come to Yarmouth, and we put a lot of effort into our neighboring municipal units, namely Digby and Shelburne, the Valley, that area, to the idea of enticing them to come to the Yarmouth area. We have a small committee, and this committee also is working quite closely now with the Downtown Merchant Committee. That is also involved. Some of our members serve on both. I've submitted a budget which is similar to last year's budget that we put in, and similar to the year before, for council to consider. So this, a lot of it is in advertising. Council's more than welcome to amend it, change it, refuse it, whatever, but it's the effort of this group to try to market our downtown and bring people to the community more. So I'll leave it in your hands. So that's the motion.
Thank you. My only question is the motion that was made for us to go out and find somebody to do Christmas promotion, but it's not the downtown Christmas, it's the town Christmas promotion. So the whole thing, and so is Jean's, it's the whole town. So everything, I don't have a problem as long as everybody's working together, and that the marketing dollars are going with them and everything, because it's an awful